So in the state of Kentucky, there is a candidate that is running for Senate against Mitch McConnell. This is a woman that actually ran for Congress in the last midterms. She lost barely by like a few points, I think. And her name is Amy McGrath. She's a former Marine. Apparently, she was the first woman to fly a jet, to become like a jet pilot or something, apparently. I'll get into that in a second. I have some remarks to say about that. But New York Times did a little profile on her and talked about her, opening up her, essentially starting her campaign. By the way, she was recruited by Chuck Schumer. I read an interesting article from Ryan Grimm of The Intercept where it talked about Chuck Schumer basically recruiting her, and this is a plan by many, by Democrats recruiting a lot of, former members of the CIA and former government officials and military people and shit. So apparently Amy McGrath is one of them. So the title of the article is Amy McGrath Opens Campaign to Oust Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. So again, like I said, she's running against Mitch McConnell here, and I'm going to read a couple of the paragraphs here from this New York Times article. It says, Amy McGrath, a retired Marine lieutenant colonel and combat pilot whose star power in the Democratic Party in 2018 failed to capture her House seat in Kentucky, announced that she would seek to challenge Senator Mitch McConnell, the Republican majority leader, in 2020. Ms. McGrath, 44, made her intentions known with a dark video denouncing Mr. McConnell, 77, who was first elected to the Senate in 1984 and served as the central ballast for President Trump in Washington. So he's basically like Trump's like main, he's like his main defender, basically. Quoting McGrath here, it says, everything that's wrong in Washington had to start someplace. Ms. McGrath said in the video, I started with this man who was elected a lifetime ago and who has bit by bit, year by year, turned Washington into something we all despise. She also reprised a story she used in her 2018 campaign against Representative Andy Barr, recounting that as a young woman, she wrote to Mr. McConnell, telling him I wanted to fly fighter jets in combat, to fight for my country, and that women should be able to do that. And noting that he never wrote back. It's like some sort of like faux feminist, faux feminist women, identity politics, women have to be involved in the same things men are involved in type shit, but using the military. Anyway, so in a strange strategy, look at what she says. Look at how she's basically opposing Mitch McConnell here. Check this out. This is a quote from her. It says, Kentuckians voted for Donald Trump because they wanted to drain the swamp and lower prescription drug prices, she said. A lot of what has stood in the way of what Donald Trump promised is Senator Mitch McConnell. So she thinks that Mitch McConnell is the reason that Donald Trump doesn't want to lower prescription drug prices. So apparently Donald Trump has worked so fucking hard, and he's worked his fingers to the bone to make sure that prescription drug prices are going lower. I mean, come on, man. Does anybody really believe that? Even if he made that promise, how do you know he's worked? Like, you're basically saying he's worked so hard, because that's what she's saying. What she's saying is Trump has worked so hard to do this, and Mitch McConnell apparently is the only one to stand in his way, or is the main person to stand in his way. How about the fact that Donald Trump never wanted to lower prescription drug prices? How about the fact that Donald Trump is beholden to the pharmaceutical industry and the health industry, who are the CEOs and corporate executives that are donating millions of dollars to his campaign so that he continues to screw over regular people who are dying from cancer and can't get cancer treatment, can't get treatment for whatever horrible illness they have. How about that? How about that? Did you not think about it? Did you not think about the fact that Donald Trump is already fucking corrupt? But that's the thing. She knows that Donald Trump won in Kentucky, so she's, in a way, kind of as a proxy. She's sucking up to Donald Trump so that she can, like, oh, this is my way of appeasing the voters that voted for the people that voted for Donald Trump. Oh, he's such a great guy. He wanted to lower prescription drug prices, and then opposing McConnell. So portraying Trump as the good guy in a way, and then McConnell as the bad guy, when in reality they're both bad guys, and they're both beholden to the pharmaceutical industry and the healthcare industry, and letting people get screwed over and wanting to screw them over, basically. And by the way, because of this, apparently one of the publications in her home state of Kentucky referred to as a Trump Democrat, a pro-Trump Democrat. So that led to some mocking, I guess that was done in a mocking way. But yeah, and that's totally not, it's not totally inaccurate either. Okay, so it seems like already she's being painted as a far left liberal. Let me read the quote here, and then I have a video, which is it's actually the video. It's a video response to Amy McGrath declaring she's going to run, and it's from Mitch McConnell's campaign. So it's like a campaign video, like attacking her essentially. But let me read this quote first. It says, Amy McGrath lost her only race in a Democratic wave election because she is an extreme liberal who is far out of touch with Kentuckians. Kevin Goldman, Mr. McConnell's campaign manager, said in a statement, he said Ms. McGrath would have a heck of a platform that we'll be delighted to discuss over the next 16 months. So let me play you this clip of the campaign ad from McConnell's team. Check it out.
I am further left. I am more progressive than anybody in the state of Kentucky.
And I think the wall is stupid. I mean, I really do. It's a waste of money.
This is what we need in this country. They're here. They're not going anywhere. Let's bring them in.
Yes, I would support a move towards universal health care. If we were to start 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and build a healthcare system from scratch, I think, my opinion, single payer is the way to go.
I don't think government should be involved in making decisions on a woman's body.
So you think a woman on the way to the hospital to give birth could decide to abort it instead?
I don't think that government should be involved in a woman's right to choose what is happening
What
to her
about the
body.
rights of the unborn child?
I also have the Congress to be a voice for progressive values.
Well, I don't know that I'm different than Democratic Party National.
Then, of course, the results of the election. We have a new commander-in-chief. And that morning I woke up like somebody had sucked a country. I mean, I felt like, what has just happened to my country? The only feeling I can describe that's any close to it was the feeling I had after 9/11.
I am further left. I am more progressive than anybody in the state of Kentucky.
I love all that scary music they have in the background. Typical Republican ad. Typical establishment tactics. Well, to be fair, a lot of right-wingers do that too. But I mean, it's just typical fear-mongering and like, this evil, big, bad liberal. In reality, she's not even close to the far left. Yeah, she said a couple times, I believe in single-payer healthcare. I believe in, being pro-choice and a woman, not having to be controlled by the government, to not be allowed to get an abortion. Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful that you say all that stuff. But in reality, for a fact you don't believe that, which is why you're talking about how Donald Trump is supposedly, being blocked by Mitch McConnell from lowering drug prices. So that's the thing. She's one of those candidates. I'm going to be showing you a couple of other segments in a second too, where she completely diverts from that narrative, which I guess she was probably pushing when she was running against the Kentucky representative in 2018 when she lost by a few points, barely lost. So that was probably all like remarks from then, and then now she's completely different because she's saying completely different things. It explains here in the article, it explains how many members of the military and government operatives are in Congress, and they love McGrath. And it quotes one of them here. It says, among the 67 new Democrats in Congress, 10 served in the military or intelligence agencies and were instrumental in returning control of the House to Democrats. The group has formed a tight bond in the 116th Congress. Many of those members, especially the women, campaigned with Ms. McGrath and are eager to see her run. I'm excited to support my friend Amy McGrath. said Representative Abigail Spanberger of Virginia, a former CIA operations officer who last year eked out a victory against a Republican incumbent. By the way, this is the person that was involved in it's part of the Problem Solvers Caucus, and Mark Pocan was going after them as like Child Abuse Caucus or something. So that was a segment I did earlier about the kind of the progressive and establishment Democrat infighting. So she's one of those people. It says her race to defeat Senate Majority Leader McConnell should matter to any American, regardless of party, who wants to see us get stuff done in Washington for the American people. Psst. Yeah, right. Okay. It says, now in this part of the article, McGrath references an old McConnell challenger. Now, she doesn't reference her by name, but this is in reference to Allison Lundergan Grimes. This is a woman that ran in 2014. And she released the stupidest ad against Mitch McConnell, and she got fucking blown out by like 20 points. Before I play that ad here, check out what she says here. It says, in 2014, Allison Lundgren Grimes, a Democrat who hoped to capitalize on Mr. McConnell's lack of popularity nationwide, failed to topple him, winning just 9 out of 120 counties. Damn. Ms. McGrath said she had learned a great deal from her unsuccessful House campaign. This is a different race, she said. Folks don't always win the first time they run. So check out this horrible ad from Allison Lundgren Grimes. It's a joke. And then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Mitch McConnell wants you to think I'm Barack Obama. Mitch is the same guy who thought Duke basketball players were UK, or who's attacking me on coal after doing next to nothing while we've lost thousands of coal jobs. He even said it's not his job to bring jobs to Kentucky.
I'm not Barack Obama. I disagree with him on guns, coal, and the EPA. And Mitch, that's not how you hold a gun. I'm Allison Lundergan Grimes, and I approve this message.
Oh my God. I've seen that ad like multiple times since 2014. It cracks me up every time. This lady is, so if for those of you guys who aren't watching, just listening, it's basically a video of her shooting, doing skeet shooting. She's skeet shooting in a field and just shooting her fucking shotgun or skeet shooting gun or whatever the fuck it is, and she's hitting a bunch of these fucking pellet things that fly in the air, and she shoots them, and then she's talking about how Mitch McConnell confused Duke and University of Kentucky, the two colleges, and then mocks him for how he holds a gun, and then at the end she says, I'm not Barack Obama. I support coal. I support like, dude, the last fucking ad you should be putting out there is saying how you don't support, because this was at a time when Obama was in office. He was president. The last thing you want to do is go out there and say how you don't support Barack Obama. How the fuck is that an inspiring message for a Democratic voter out there to support you? I understand it's Kentucky, but you got to go out there and be an actual Democrat, because as many, I think it's Kyle has definitely said this multiple times. I think Jank from TYT has said the same thing, that whenever voters have a choice of a Republican against a Democrat that uses Republican like talking points, they're always going to go with the actual Republican, because that Democrat is just pretending to be a Republican. So this person looks at this like, wait, that doesn't sound right. This person is a Republican. I'm sorry, this person is a Democrat and is using Republican talking points. Why would I go for them when I have the real option right here, which is a Republican? So unless that Republican's like totally unpopular and he's an asshole and he's like, I don't know, maybe he's a sexual harasser, I don't know, something terrible. He's got some sort of horrible scandal going on, just like the race in Alabama that Doug Jones won over that dude, that sexual harasser dude. I forgot his name. It was from 2018. He won in Alabama and barely eked it out. But in those cases, because that guy, Doug Jones is a big time conservative. And He was very much like a Manchin, Joe Manchin type Democrat. But he managed to win. He barely won, but he beat a fucking sexual harasser. So how hard is that, right? It's not that hard to beat that kind of person, right? So, yeah. So like you beat that guy, yeah, that's great. I'm just like, but that's what I'm saying. When you have the option of a Republican and a Democrat who pretends to be a Republican, you're just going to go for the Republican. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. That's what happened when Allison Lundgren and Grimes released this stupid ass ad and lost by 20 points to McConnell. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Amy McGrath ended up with the same results. Maybe not 20 points, but I mean, especially since she's sucking up to Donald Trump. But she's going out there and she's talking about how Mitch McConnell is terrible and Donald Trump is a great guy, and people are going to be like, that doesn't make any sense. This person is a Democrat, but they're praising Trump. I don't know if I can trust them. I don't know if I can trust them to push Republican policies, because they're not an actual Republican, but they're using Republican talking points, and they're saying how Trump is doing wonderful things, and he's the Republican, and there's a Democrat, this is the Democrat saying this stuff. So it doesn't make any sense. So she basically says kind of the same kind of talking points in two different interviews. I'm going to play this full interview. It's like a 4-minute interview that Amy McGrath does with Jake Tapper of CNN, and there's another one after that. That's just the next clip is going to be a shorter part of a longer interview that I'm going to play. But this one is a full interview that McGrath does with Jake Tapper. Let's check this out, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
I sat at this table, and I wrote a letter to my senator, telling him I wanted to fly fighter jets in combat, to fight for my country, and that women should be able to do that. He never wrote back.
That senator that didn't write back was Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, and the letter writer is his likely 2020 Democratic challenger, Amy McGrath, a retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel and one of the first women to fly a combat mission in the FA-18 fighter jet. She's going to run to unseat McConnell in Kentucky. It's a state he's served for more than 3 decades. McGrath lost a close race for the House last year, but proved to be a prolific fundraiser. She was recruited to run for this seat by Chuck Schumer and others. Amy McGrath joins me now. Lieutenant Colonel, thanks for joining us. I guess the first question I have is, President Trump won Kentucky by 30 points in 2016. He's going to be on the top of the ticket next year. You lost a House race in a Democratic wave season. You came close, but you didn't get it across the finish line. What makes you think you can beat McConnell in what will probably be a more difficult environment?
Mm-hmm. Well, you're right to say that Senator McConnell is a very formidable foe. I think if you think about why Kentuckians voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump promised to drain the swamp, bring back jobs, do big things in infrastructure, do things like bring down drug prices. And a lot of these things are being halted by Senator McConnell. For example, drug prices. President Trump has said this is his priority. He said the current system is very, very unfair. And this is important for Kentucky. Kentucky has the second highest per capita spending on prescription drug medication, over $2,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And who's stopping President Trump from doing this? Senator McConnell, because he's bought off by Big Pharma. I mean, he gets $1.2 million in campaign cash in his last election. It's not rocket science. This is what's happening, and a lot of Kentuckians know this. So
this pitch that you're saying right now, which you said earlier today, prompted the Louisville Courier-Journal, one of your home state papers, to say that you seem to be casting yourself as a pro-Trump Democrat in ways, saying McConnell's the reason that a lot of things Trump promised to Kentuckians hasn't happened. Is that a fair depiction?
I would say that I understand why the voters in Kentucky voted for Donald Trump. They are tired of the swamp. They are tired of the dysfunction. Frankly, voters in Kentucky really don't like both political parties. They think that's part of the problem. And folks like Senator McConnell, who have been around for 34 years, are not the answer. And I think many Kentuckians are seeing that. And that was a lot of the appeal of Donald Trump. He was an outsider. And so I think that's what I'm trying to say. I'm an outsider too. I'm not someone who ever believed I was going to be a politician. Jake, I just wanted to serve my country.
Right.
I had this dream. I wanted to fly fighter jets, and that's what I did. And along the way, I met my husband, a Navy pilot, and we got married. We have 3 kids, and it's amazing. But we both looked at each other over the last 3 years, like many Americans and many Kentuckians, and we've said, you know, hey, we need better leaders in this country. And there's no better example of that than in Kentucky.
So I can understand certainly why you're talking about how you understand why Kentuckians voted for Donald Trump in such overwhelming numbers. But it has been pointed out that you once compared the feeling you had when President Trump was elected to the feeling you had on 9/11. Won't that undermine the pitch, you think?
Well, what I was talking about was the fact that, you know, nobody really expected President Trump to win. And I was talking also about the entire 2016 cycle. You know, many of us were spurred into action by what happened in 2016, the labeling of each other as they're all communist, or they're all this, or they're all that. And the fake news, the divisiveness of our country was something I had never seen before. You know, my husband is a Republican, I'm a Democrat. We took stock of that after the election, and we said, you know, where are we as a country? And that way, it was the same thing for me, was looking at that tragic event and taking stock of where are we as a country. So that's what I was saying, and I can see why, you know, folks might be upset about that. But that's what I was saying.
All right, Lieutenant Colonel Amy McGrath, we thank you for your service. Good luck out there on the campaign trail.
Great to have you.
That's probably not the response at the end that you want to give to somebody that's interviewing you, because they're the one having you on their show. So, but anyway, that's least of our problems. The comparing, and this is something that was mentioned in the Mitch McConnell ad attacking her, where she compared Trump winning to 9/11. I mean, even if you think that, like, even if that's how you felt, why would you say that? That's crazy. I mean, yeah, it was a gut punch when Trump won. I felt the gut punch when Trump won. I was definitely surprised. A lot of people, other people were not surprised, like Cenk and, well, Cenk, when he was doing the TYT coverage, which I was actually watching, he was very surprised that Trump won, but he predicted that Trump would win. He went on mainstream media, on ABC's, with George Stephanopoulos. He went on there in front of a whole panel, and he said that Trump would actually win. So, and Kyle Kulinski, he's described Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk. He's talked about this multiple times, and he's talked about how, you know, Trump won because of the Rust Belt, and he won because he, you know, went out there and said that, you know, I'm going to bring back factory jobs, I'm going to end TPP, I'm going to end the wars, and, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, to her credit, she did mention a couple of those things about how he's going to, you know, Trump's going to fix the infrastructure of the company, he's going to bring back jobs to America, blah, blah. Yeah, she's right about that, but that's not the pitch you want to use. So, and even Tapper he mentions the whole 9/11 thing, like you're talking about, oh, this was such a gut punch about, you know, I was so surprised that it felt like, you know, 9/11 when Trump won. But then you talk about, oh, well, no, it was because of all the change that was happening and nobody expected it. No, that's not true. You don't compare somebody winning an election to 9/11 and then just pretend like, oh, there were so many different changes happening. No, you were affected by the fact, you know, you were shocked and affected by the fact that this fucking monster, this maniac won. And you're talking about, you're pitching to Kentuckians about how he's promised to drain the swamp and he's not doing it, and somehow it's Mitch McConnell's fault. I can't believe she's using that argument. It's so absurd. And she's using this everywhere she's going. I'm going to play you one more clip here. This is in an interview with Morning Joe. And she's asked pretty much the same exact thing. And she repeats herself again. So let me play this for you real quick, one more time here. And check out this clip and check out how she basically repeats the same talking points again. It's a short clip because this whole segment was like 11 minutes long. I cut it down to like 2.5 minutes or so. So check this out, and then we're going to talk about it on the other side.
Amy, it's Willie Geist. Congratulations on getting into the race. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you here this morning. There have been many people over the years who come at Mitch McConnell, who believe he or she were the candidate that were going to finally take him out politically, and he has persevered. He's been a resilient political candidate and a politician in Washington through the years. Why do you believe this time is different?
Well, and you're absolutely right to say he's very formidable, and he's been around 34 years. I think this is different. It's a different race because, Kentucky voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. Yeah. And you can say Kentucky is a very red state, but it's a very pro-Trump state. And if you think about why Kentuckians voted for Trump, they wanted to drain the swamp, and Trump said that he was going to do that. Trump promised to bring back jobs. He promised to lower drug prices for so many Kentuckians. And that is very important. And you know what? Who stops them along the way? Who stops the president from doing these things? Well, Mitch McConnell. And I think that that's really important, and that's going to be, my message, that the things that Kentuckians voted for Trump for are not being done. He's not able to get it done because of Senator McConnell.
Hi, Amy. It's Steve Ratner. As you well know, on the national stage, the presidential hopefuls come in a variety of colors and flavors, if you will, on issues. And I'd just like to ask you how you're going to position yourself on some of these issues, like Medicare for All, like the Green New Deal, like free college tuition. How do you run on those issues in the state of Kentucky?
Well, I think that, and I watch the Democratic debates with my husband and my family, and, a lot of times, my husband is a registered Republican, and I'm a Democrat, but I was an independent for many years. And there were times when, my husband and I looked at each other during the debates, and we were concerned that many of the candidates were pulling a little too far left from where we are, because we're both moderates. We're like most Americans. We get along, and we just want reasonable solutions for some of these things. So I differ from some of the Democratic candidates because, I'm not for taking away private health insurance, as an example. I don't think we should upend our entire system in a Medicare for All, because there's a lot of people that like their insurance, but we should be fixing the system, as an example. I'm not for things like subsidizing health insurance for illegal immigrants. I think many Kentuckians feel that we have a problem with getting health insurance for many Americans, so we need to fix that first.
But wait, didn't you say in the clip that Mitch McConnell played? So the Mitch McConnell ad that they released, they quoted you. It was your voice, your face, a shot of you saying that ultimately single payer is the best policy that should be implemented. She said that. Now, unless she's an idiot, and she's like Kamala Harris, and she just likes to flip-flop all over the place and say one thing to one place and say another thing to another place based on the audience or the people that are sitting there. The single-payer, Medicare for All, whichever term you want to use, that means the elimination of private insurance. Now, when you made that comment in that montage of clips that Mitch McConnell's ad played, did you know that, or did you not know that, or were you just lying? See, that's the thing. I don't know what this lady is talking about. 1 second she's saying one thing, 1 second she's saying another thing, and all of a sudden she's I'm so shocked. We were taken aback. Me and my right-wing Republican. She says he's a moderate, whatever. I don't know. She probably does. He's probably not even really that moderate, but whatever. My Republican husband here. We were so shocked as we were watching these debates, as they were stating the same policies that they were in favor of that I said I was in favor of. And then now you're coming on here and you're talking about how you don't believe in taking away private insurance. So either you're a liar, or you don't know that private insurance is taken away when single payer or Medicare for All is implemented. You said you were in favor of single payer. So, I mean, this is not a good candidate. To be fair, she's not as bad as Alison Lundgren-Graham. That woman was historically bad. She was just horrible. because she was talking about how she wasn't even like Obama. Apparently, in fact, she was I believe, a delegate for Hillary Clinton in 2008, and she, was kind of part of that like anti-Obama coalition in 2008 because she was in favor of Hillary Clinton. And then when they asked her later on, I think it was during the 2014 midterms, or maybe it was even before the midterms, people were asking her, "Did you support Barack Obama? In 2008, did you vote for him?"
Did you vote for President Obama, 2008, 2012?
This election, it isn't about the president. It's about making sure we put Kentuckians back to work.
Did you vote for him?
I was actually in 2008 a delegate for Hillary Clinton, and I think that Kentuckians know I'm a Clinton Democrat through and through. I respect the sanctity of the ballot box, and I know that the members of this editorial board do as well.
So you're not going to answer?
Again, I don't think that the president is on the ballot as much as Mitch McConnell might want him to be. It's my name, and it's going to be me who's holding him accountable for the failed decisions and votes that he has made against the people of Kentucky.
Yeah, she basically couldn't answer the question, and she didn't want to admit that maybe she voted for Obama, she just didn't want to admit it, or maybe she actually didn't want it, or maybe she didn't she didn't want to, basically, I guess in her mind, probably seeing it as possibly trashing Obama. So she didn't want to like attack Obama and for it to like hurt her chances in her, election against McConnell. But either way, I mean, she was a horrible candidate. So this woman is like, she's built in the same mold as Lundgren and Grimes in the sense of like being this moderate type, like, oh yeah, I'm so moderate, like. But listen, I get I understand it's Kentucky. Kentucky is a right-wing state. They voted for Trump overwhelmingly by 30-something points. But at the same time, you have to consider the fact that, again, like I said before, you can't vote for nobody's going to vote for a Democrat who spouts Republican talking points when they have the option of a Republican. Why would they do that? You'd have to be stupid. Even if you're a Republican, because there's a lot of idiotic Republicans out there. To be fair, there's a lot of idiotic Democrats out there, but there's a lot of idiotic Republicans who are like, married to the idea of like, well, I just support anybody that's pro Second Amendment and, anti-PC and, anti-abortion, and they have like their specific issues that they're just like in favor of, and. As stupid as they fucking sound, they see somebody like Amy McGrath pretending to be a Republican, and they don't like it, and they're not gonna vote for that. You're not gonna win. And my prediction ultimately is that Amy McGrath is gonna get fucking steamrolled, just like Mitch McConnell. Just like Mitch McConnell did to Allison and Grimes. Again, I don't think it's going to be as bad, but I don't think he's gonna have any issues beating her. Maybe it won't be 20 points. But it's going to be bad. It's going to be somewhere between 10 and 15 points, I would say, because she's not as horrible as she was, but she was so horrible, and it's like, okay, like you can't give her credit for not being as bad as somebody that's really, really bad. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, McGrath is just like, she's like a typical right-wing Democrat, Joe Manchin type Democrat. And by the way, when it comes to the whole idea of like, oh, well, you shouldn't push progressive policies in right-wing red states. Listen, Bernie Sanders, he went to West Virginia. This is a famous moment in, I believe it was 2017. It was after Trump was elected. Bernie Sanders went to West Virginia. He did a town hall with MSNBC's Chris Hayes, one of the honestly still somewhat decent people at MSNBC is Chris Hayes. Hayes brought him on. They did this town hall. Bernie Sanders spoke in a town hall in front of a bunch of West Virginians. A bunch of people said they got fucked over by Donald Trump. They got screwed over. He's not doing the job that he's promised he would do. We don't trust him. We don't think he's, ultimately going to be for us, regular people. He's not going to help us when we need him most. And Bernie Sanders responds by saying, okay, I'm the antithesis of Donald Trump. I believe in Medicare for all. I believe in free college. I believe in a living wage. I believe in ending the wars. I believe in, ending the student debt loan crisis. I I believe in unions. I believe in higher wages for those unions. I believe in you having the right to fight for your job to not be a terrible job, because that's what it is when you don't have a union. So I support your right to be, to work under a union job, so that you have the protections that you deserve, especially in a what they call coal country, which is in West Virginia. They have a lot of coal jobs there, and if anybody needs unions, it's those people. And he said all this stuff, and they stood up and they clapped for him. They clapped for him, gave him a standing ovation like this. All these people, after every word he said, after every great progressive thing he said, they clapped for him. And West Virginia, they also went heavily for Donald Trump too. Joe Manchin is from West Virginia. Bernie was in Joe Manchin's backyard saying these things. And he got a standing ovation from these people that all voted for Trump. Trump country, coal country, whatever you want to call them. They all voted for Trump. And they all wanted Trump to win. They all voted for him. They all thought he was going to, be there for him. He wasn't. When Bernie Sanders pointed out all the things that he was going to do for them, and they realized that Trump isn't going to be there for him, they, gave Bernie a standing ovation. They loved it. And Bernie, he was just being himself. He was putting out his progressive policies out there, and they appreciated him for his honesty and his candor, and that's it. The rest is history, because after that, Bernie Sanders has gone to Fox News town halls, as he did recently, and he's gotten standing ovations there, stating the same progressive policies. He's gone to all other parts of the country, whether it's the Deep South or anywhere else, and he's gotten a ton of praise from audience members. People have been giving him hugs, and they've been, shaking his hand. They've been, roaring and giving him applauding and standing ovations for all the wonderful policies that he puts out there that are progressive policies. And what does Amy McGrath do? What does Alison Lundgren-Grimes do? What do all these right-wing candidates, Joe Manchin, all these types do? All the other old ones that lost in 2016, Joe Donnelly and all these people, Claire McCaskill's another one. What did they do? All these people, they talked about how right-wing they are and how they're moderate, so-called. They're not really moderate. They just claim they are. To them, because our political spectrum in this country is so tilted to the right, they think they're moderate. But that's what they did. And they lost. A lot of those people lost. Now, you can say that a lot of the people that, ran as so-called moderates won in 2018, because they did, but also a lot of Justice Democrats won. That's what Ayanna Pressley did. That's what Ilhan Omar did. That's what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did. Now, she beat what's his name? She beat Joe Crowley, but that was in a tough ass election against a guy that's outspending her 4-1, 3-1, whatever it was. He was there for, he's in his seat for 18 years, I think it was 20 years, and she beat him. So, you can talk about how that wasn't an actual wasn't an actual competitive election, because she won the primary, not the actual. It wasn't competitive at all in the general, but it was mainly competitive, and obviously, up for grabs, I guess. Well, not up for grabs, but it was going to be a tough battle. But either way, it was a tough battle in the primary anyway. And that's why the whole idea of primarying, like the Justice Democrats do, that's why they do it, because they know primarying is just as important as the general election. The primary, general election, you got to win both of them. And the primary, just like the regular season in sports, the regular season prepares you for the playoffs and the finals and everything. The primary in elections, political elections and political, the political situations that you're in as a candidate, that prepares you for the general election. And that's exactly what happened. And Amy McGrath is not going to be prepared. She's going, I guess she's going to be the main primary candidate. So I don't know if she's running against anybody else or anybody, but okay, fine. She wins the primary. Big deal. You're going up against a bunch of other right-wing Democrats. So, and then maybe you're the best one because you have the most money behind you. Because I heard she got a bunch of money behind her, and she's, raised $2.5 or $2.4 million in the first week or first month, something like that. First week, I think. And she's also recruited by Chuck Schumer, and then she ran in the last election as, running for Congress. So yeah, she's pretty well known among people in Kentucky, so that's not surprising. But when it comes to actually, being a candidate that people would want to support, Amy McGrath is not one of them. So she can talk about how she's for the people and for, fighting Mitch McConnell, and then Donald Trump is wonderful and all that stuff. She can suck up to Donald Trump and hate on McConnell all she wants. But ultimately, she's not gonna be the candidate to beat him. I guarantee you.